Conspiracy theories, eh? Wait till you get a load of this. Hello, and welcome to Crack Sisters Conspiracies. We are a podcast that covers conspiracy theories, mysteries, and all over spooky shit. My name is Cassandra.
And I'm Jackie.
And we are said sisters. Oh my God, we made it through the intro and I didn't up and
I know.
No one.
That's good. Good for us.
Too much.
Never happens.
It does not. It's a day to be remembered. So what's going on?
I just spent $800 on florals. Don't get married, folks. It's very expensive.
I assumed that was part of everything.
So it is, but she's like, so you have a pack, like you have the top tier package, so everything's included except for your archway that you're standing under during the ceremony.
Oh.
So if you don't want it to be a metal frame, you have to pay money. So like she sent me some inspo, and there was one that was all just like floral greenery and stuff. I'm like, I want that. She goes, cool, that's $1,300. I don't I don't want to spend any money. What do you have for me there? And then she's like, okay, so these are some options. So I picked one, and it's like a black, drapery or whatever, and then like 2 bouquets. And I'm like, pick. So that was $650. And then she's like, plus tax and delivery. She goes, it's $875. She goes, but if you pay in full, I'll give you a discount. So sure, whatever.
Oh my God. Yeah. Getting married just seems like a money pit. So
it is.
And you haven't even gotten started yet.
I know. And I kept forgetting to talk about it. A month ago, we got a letter from my HOA because we submitted our proposal for our flagpole that we already installed and then got told we couldn't have. And they denied our application.
What? For a flagpole?
Yeah. I literally was the most professional bitch ever. Like my wording, I was pretending to be Alex. Because I'm like, maybe they'll take a man more seriously than me. So like, Alex doesn't know anything. So I was Alex, and I did the most professional thing. I apologized for we're first time home buyers.
That's the first step where you went wrong. Men don't apologize.
No, because I know HOA people, and they have like this fucking complex. So I'm like, they want their ego stroked. So I'm like, we're so sorry. Like we didn't know. We're first time home buyers. And I'm like, I'm just a veteran from the United States Navy. Like I just want to proudly display my flags. Like that's the only reason. So I'm like, I'm trying to hit every fucking angle, and they denied it. Okay.
Was there like a reason for denial?
They said it is denied for the following reason, and the reason was it is denied. And I went, that's not English. And so they sent us like when we moved in like a fucking 800-page packet of rules. So I assume I have to go through them. They're like, you have to look up the flag rules or the posting rules or something like that. So I have to go through this 800-page packet and figure out what the fuck they're talking about. But Alex was like, there was this old vet in Texas or somewhere, maybe not Texas, but some state where he put up a flagpole and the HOA told me I had to take it down, and it went all the way up to the Supreme Court. So I'm like, there's case law about flagpoles. So I'm like, please don't make me fucking do that, but I will. So we had to take it down so we don't get fined in the meantime.
Oh my God. My HOA literally cares about nothing.
Sorry, my dog's humping my other dog. Hold on. It's disgusting. Okay, what'd you say?
I was just thinking, well, that's a great TikTok clip right there.
Yay!
But I was saying it's a good thing that my HOA does not give a shit about anything.
Yeah, I'm
the most annoying person on my street who complains about HOA violations isn't even in the HOA. She is just a bored busybody that no one listens to. So
and I get the reason for it, and I like it, and for the most part, but it's like we put up a professional. It wasn't like some rinky-dink flagpole. It's a professional thing. It's illuminated. It looks so nice. It was fucking $300, and they denied it. Those bitches.
So yeah, in that documentation that you have, it gives you the list of all the HOA members. So what you need to do is look them up online and then
in their lives.
Yeah, strategically stalk them and that, or learn more about them and use that to your advantage when you reapply.
Well, Alex's goal is to somehow get on the board so he can have influence, and therefore we get what we want.
That's the one thing that I'm actively avoiding. I have been solicited so many times and say, absolutely no, thank you.
He would like that power, I think.
I would, but I don't want to go through all the hoops that it would take for me to get that. So,
what's new with you?
nothing. Just I passed the test that I was studying for
Right. Good
with
job.
flying colors, and so I only have like a million more to go. I'm giving myself this week off before I start my next class.
Well, you're going on vacation this week, as we
I am. We are heading to Lake Arrowhead to go stay in this ginormous bougie cabin house, and
fun.
That'll be fun. It's 4th of July this week.
It is.
So, America.
I mean, it's late, but happy 4th of July.
And like, not to get political, but I don't know if you saw anything about the debate last week, but Jesus Christ, our country is fucked.
Alex called me and he goes, I don't care what you're doing. You need to turn on the presidential debate. I go, I don't want to do that. He's like, dude, it's hilarious. They're like saying like your mom, but no, your mom, but like an adult. And
they were arguing over their golf handicaps and stuff. Like
I came in at a weird time and then I said, I don't want to watch this.
Rightfully so, because it was a disaster on both sides. And I am fearful for what the future holds. But anywho,
like that.
Yeah, I went to IKEA yesterday. Yeah, Grayson has never been. So we were out in Burbank because we were looking at a cat, which we decided to pass on. But I was like, let's go to IKEA and like, let's get new nightstands. Of course, we didn't find the things that we were looking for.
Yeah.
But my child, her eyes were open to a whole new world because there are so many things and they are relatively inexpensive. Yeah. And so she just walked out with like armfuls of stuff. And you know, it was a good time.
You get their meatballs? I've never eaten their meatballs.
I thought about it. We went to the food court after, but I wasn't hungry. So they ate like 75-cent hot dogs, and they call it a meatball sundae, where it's just like it's like a cup of meatballs. But I'm like, oh, that actually looks pretty good, but I did not get it.
Oh, yeah. I never tried their meatballs. I've only heard good things, but I've actually never had any of their food now that I think about it.
But I love Swedish meatballs. I like making them at home, so I'm sure they're better. What was that face?
I don't like Swedish meatballs.
That's what IKEA meatballs are.
Then it's a good thing I haven't eaten them. I didn't know that.
Lord.
But also, every time I ever went to IKEA, I went to Hooters because that was like the last Hooters was in Burbank. I don't know if it's still there. It was
God. I haven't been to a Hooters in so long. Good times. I remember there was one in Thousand Oaks. I don't know who thought that would have ever survived.
The service fucking sucked.
The service sucked, and that is not the demographic. You're not going for like the rich old white folks.
White ladies.
Yeah.
They don't want to see young 20-somethings with giant tits hitting on their husbands.
It's true. It's true. But I used to love going to the one in Hollywood. So, yeah. But anywho, I did my notes last week and completely forgot what my topic was.
I have no idea what your topic is.
Okay. Well, you were the kind of, well, not the inspiration, but I thought of you while I was doing my topic because the relationship between the main person and your love for Alice in Wonderland are...
That's right. Okay. Yes.
So, yes, today we are going to look into the theory that Lewis Carroll, the author of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, he was also the notorious murderer Jack the Ripper.
That's right. I 100% forgot about all of this.
So did I. Like, I was reading through my notes. I'm like, what did I even do? I used every brain cell I had in the moment to get this done and then moved on. So it's dead now. All right. So for some context and history, we're going to look into Jack the Ripper first, and then we'll circle back to how one might conclude that Lewis Carroll was one and the same.
Okay.
So Jack the Ripper, he was a serial killer who was active in the London area, specifically a parish called Whitechapel in the late 1880s. And at this time, there was a flood of like Irish immigrants coming in, as well as like an influx of Jewish refugees. But anyway, there's a whole bunch of people pouring into the country and kind of overrunning London. And it led to serious overcrowding of just England overall. It wasn't even just that specific area. But due to the overwhelming size of the population, because there was a lot more people there and they were all doing what people do and having more people. So it was like quickly becoming a thing, but they kind of overran the area. So it became very depressed, like economically. And it was essentially a slum in that time. There was a lot of violence. Robbery was very common. Alcohol dependency was a big thing because, again, they're in a depressive area. So that's pretty commonplace.
Yeah.
And due to all of the shitty conditions that everyone lived in, women particularly turned to creative works in order to make money, i.e., prostitution. So that was running wild in London and England in that time.
Okay.
So by October of 1888, there were approximately 1,200 working girls in the Whitechapel area alone. And it's like a small little parish town. So that's like every other woman was on the.
That's why I think it's so funny that people are so aghast when it comes to OnlyFans. It's like, oh, there's so many girls doing it. How could they do this? Like, do you know what history was? Like, everyone is a hoe at some point in their life, and
sex has sold as long as people have existed. I'm sure there was barters and trades for the goods at any given time throughout history. Through what?
A caveman?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, I will trade you a lion pelt if you haktua on my.
Oh God, not that.
But anyway, so yes, lots of dirty whores running in the area, depending on who you ask.
Okay.
And so the Whitechapel area specifically was known as a den of immorality. And shortly thereafter, someone who did not like that started killing all the whores.
Sounds like a fucking HOA president to me.
Right? It's like, you brought down the quality of the neighborhood, so I need to eliminate. So yeah, all that really did was help perpetuate the fact that that area is a dumpster fire, because it's super violent, and we're just going to make it more violent by killing, the hardworking ladies of the night. So.
Yeah, let them do their work.
I mean, that to me is like a job. I couldn't imagine having to do that.
They call it a blowjob for a reason.
Right? So yeah, having to sustain life that way. What?
I literally just got off the phone with mom and dad, and dad's like, all of my coworkers now listen to you guys. So
oh my God. The views and opinions expressed are solely of Crack Sisters Conspiracies
and no parents.
This is not reflective of our parents or our upbringing, although you made us.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay, back to killing the hookers.
Yes.
So attacks against women were becoming very common at the time. And so it's hard to determine just how many victims were actually murdered by the same person, because so many people were being offed. But more specifically, from April of 1888 to February of 1891. So like a 3-year period, well, slightly less than 3 years, sorry. There were 11 separate murders that the police referred to as the Whitechapel murders. And at least 5 of those 11 murders are widely thought to be specifically done by Jack the Ripper. So I forgot the canonical 5, I think is what they referred to them as. Like those are the ones that kind of kicked off the murdering.
Oh, okay.
So the typical victims of Jack were women, more specifically prostitutes, like I had mentioned, and they generally lived and worked in the slums of Eastern London, primarily in the Whitechapel area. Mm-hmm. And then the typical MO for his victims was that their throats would first be slit, and then he would move on to mutilating their bodies because, that's some fun. And he would generally focus on the abdominal section and genital areas, as well as facial mutilations too. So he really got all up in there.
Yeah.
The internal organs of at least 3 of the victims had been removed. And because of that, it led some people to believe that he might have come from a background that provided him with anatomical or medical or surgical knowledge. And each of the 5 murders linked to the Ripper took place at night, and they were on or around a weekend, like when they were trying to establish a pattern or something. So it was usually like a Friday or a Saturday. It would either be weekly or monthly, but it was always
that's probably a busy 2 nights for hookers,
right? Like everyone's working the streets on the weekend. You come off from, I don't know if actually they had weekends back then. I don't know.
Well, I don't know either.
Yeah.
And do you get days off?
I don't know.
Did they have pimps or were they self-sustained?
I'm sure there was a combination of the two.
I think if you have pimps, you don't get a day off.
No, if you have a pimp, you have nothing.
Yeah, you have
no sense
control.
of freedom. So, but regardless, pimp or not, I'm sure they were all being knocked off.
Yeah.
But with each new victim, the mutilation, like the severity of it would increase over time. So it's like he kind of started out and then got
more comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah. The Metropolitan Police files detailing the investigation are unfortunately incomplete because a good deal of the City of London's police files had been destroyed in a German bombing campaign in the 1940s.
Oh, geez.
And what could be determined through was forensic material had been collected, suspects were identified, and almost 2,000 people were interviewed and run through the what ifs. But there was never any conclusive evidence to determine the identity of Jack the Ripper, and it still remains unknown to this day.
Yeah, I never followed Jack the Ripper. That just was not a serial killer that ever like really caught my attention. But I know like 20 famous people have been accused of being him.
Yeah, because they're just kind of pulling at straws, any thread that they can find, because there was nothing that was substantiated and can link him to any person to any murders, not even a specific suspect. Okay, so bringing us back to Lewis Carroll. So how the hell did that link get made between these two characters? It pretty much ties back to one single person who has perpetuated this.
Of course.
There's an author named Richard Wallace who was a clinical social worker, and he was also a part-time Lewis Carroll scholar. So part of his life's work was like studying Lewis Carroll, because I guess he really liked him.
Yeah. I mean, he was an interesting dude.
I don't know that I find anyone interesting enough to devote more than a couple of moments time.
At least I don't love him. I love his work.
Sure. Yes. Him as a person.
And even with my love of Alice in Wonderland, I've never like delved into his life at all.
No,
like I never cared to.
Yeah. Generally, I don't get super obsessive about things like that. The things I hyper focus on are completely different and weird. But anywho, this guy, he's an author. So he wrote a book in 1996 titled Jack the Ripper, Lighthearted Friend, where he, in the book, suggested that Carroll had a more sinister side and that he actually had an alter ego, specifically Jack the Ripper. So in the book, Wallace suggests that Carroll's account of his time at rugby school, I didn't know rugby school was a thing.
Well,
unless that's the name
of Kiwi, right? Like Kiwi,
New Zealand.
Or Australian?
No, I don't think so. I don't know.
Because Tara's stepdad was...
Sorry, New Zealand and rugby are a thing. I think Australia plays... I thought you were talking about is Lewis Carroll from New Zealand.
No. I'm saying that's... I totally lost my train of thought, but... Yeah. I mean, that's okay. If he's in London, why would he be playing a sport that is primarily not London based?
Yeah. So I don't know if it was rugby school or that was just the name of the school. But anyway, he was at rugby school when he was a teenager. And it was implied, without directly saying so, that Carroll was being abused by the older boys at school, which ultimately drove him to a psychotic break. And the shift in his psychology is what made way for the Jack the Ripper persona to develop and flourish.
Okay.
So according to Wallace, Carroll regularly would sneak hidden messages into his letters and published works, and he started dissecting lines that Lewis Carroll had written. So as an example, this is where it starts to get...
We're going downhill real fucking quick.
Yeah. So in a passage that Carroll wrote, it said, "My dear Skeff, roar not lest thou be abolished." That shit doesn't make any sense to me, but I also am from our current time. So, whatever. Wallace then rearranged that sentence essentially to instead read, "Ask mother about the red lion. Safer boys fled." Again, that doesn't make any sense to me either.
No.
But apparently it meant something to Wallace because he suspected that red lion that was mentioned in his translation referred to a game that was sexual in nature and was played at the boys' school that Lewis Carroll had attended. And he believes his mistreatment at rugby school fueled his overall hatred for and the need to get revenge on society. So that's what opened the floodgates for Jack the Ripper's persona to come out.
Has anyone investigated this guy? Because I feel like he is so hard projecting, and
right,
Jack the Ripper.
I mean, considering that Jack the Ripper was in the 1800s and
this is the
1990s, so we're like 100 years apart. So we know it wasn't him,
but he's done something. Someone should.
He might have a body in a closet somewhere. You're right. There's probably some cause there.
Yeah, he's projecting really hard.
Yeah, so to kind of keep that crazy ball rolling, so he then goes on to claim that Lewis Carroll confessed to the murders in his books, in the things that he had written in his, plays and poems and stuff. So as an example, he referred to a scene from a young children's book called The Nursery Alice, and that read, "So we went to the cook and we got her to make a saucerful of nice oatmeal porridge. And then we called Dash into the house and we said, 'Now, Dash, you're going to have your birthday treat.' We expected Dash would jump for joy, but it didn't one bit." So I'm like, in a kid's book, whatever, that I guess could, vibe. Yeah. But Wallace, he rearranged the words again.
Who has time for this?
Someone who is a part-time Lewis Carroll scholar.
He's like a full-time fucking psycho.
He is. And he's a social worker. So I'm questioning his mental abilities. So his rearranged version. Mm-hmm. "Oh, we Thomas Bain, Charles Dogson, coited into the slain nude body, expected to taste, devour, enjoy a nice meal of a dead whore's uterus. We made do, found it awful, wan and tough like a worn, dirty goat hog. We both threw it out, Jack the Ripper."
I'm calling people goat hogs from now on. You piss me off, goat hog.
Right? I mean, that is a very descriptive.
Wow.
Phrase. A worn, dirty goat hog. So with regard to that, I'm like, oh, interesting. Mm-hmm. The general consensus surrounding it is that Wallace was absolutely batshit crazy.
No.
And he was very much overreaching. And it was also noted that his rearranging of the anagrams of what Carroll had written often didn't make sense. And it turns out that Wallace regularly left out letters or just changed them to make it fit. You know, saying like, oh, this is what he really meant, and just kind of shoehorning things in there. And so beyond his attempts at sussing out the hidden truths in Lewis Carroll's writing, Wallace had no other evidence to support the theory that Lewis Carroll was in fact Jack the Ripper beyond that.
Yeah.
So he tried really, really hard to find links between Carroll and the murders. So he's like, there's got to be something. So trying to kind of perpetuate his theory, he noted that Lewis Carroll had a library full of books on medicine and anatomy at home. Mm-hmm. And like one of the questions was, maybe he had that, that background, but he's an author and he has books, and books of all kinds can exist in a library. I have books, so many books on bugs. Like
I have medical anatomy books. Yeah,
I do. Yeah, we do too. And that's not uncommon. So throw that one out. This one's weird. He noted that Lewis Carroll's mother had a long nose and he was really angry with her because she sent him off to boys' school. Oh. And so it was because the nose of two of his victims had been cut off, like in the mutilation. And so it was all very far reaching, but it's like, oh, obviously he cut the noses off because he was mad at his mom. So it has to be him.
Yeah, this isn't Ed Kemper. This is someone else.
In support for Carroll, it is worth noting that at the time of the murders, he was never at or near any of the crime scenes.
Yeah.
So he was either known to be vacationing away or away in school at Oxford College. Furthermore, in 2019, there was a study done claiming to have used the DNA because they had forensic data that still existed. Yeah. And so they had done a DNA analysis to reveal who the true Jack the Ripper was. And it suggested that it's likely it was a 23-year-old man named Aaron Kaminsky. He lived in London at the time, and the study stated that the DNA that they found on the shawl there was like a shawl put into evidence that had his spunk on it. So that was the DNA that they had.
Yeah.
It was a close match for a living relative of
familial DNA,
the suspected person. So they think that that's probably who it was. But again, they still aren't entirely sure that the findings of the DNA analysis and whether they were fully legit, I think is still like questionable. But considering that the man in question is long since dead and the possibility of evidence pointing at an entirely different suspect, I think it's safe to say that it's not Lewis Carroll.
No, leave him alone. How dare you?
Yeah, I'm like, his reputation shall remain intact. No tarnishing of that. He created something that you love so dearly. Yeah. And I do not think he was Jack the Ripper.
No, neither do I. I never heard that. That's so interesting.
That is interesting. What's interesting to me is just how deep down the rabbit hole some people can get on things that they think. It's very much Charlie at the pinboard, like with that one. So,
I mean, I guess it's easy for anyone in any scenario to, it's like you're pigeonholed. You already know a suspect. So it's easy to make all the evidence fit instead of doing it blind, where you're taking the evidence and following it where it takes you. So if you think it's this person, you can probably, if you thought it was you, I'm sure he could find a way to say it was you.
That's called confirmation bias. That's a very common thing where it's like, if you believe something to be true, you are going to search out only things to support that.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that's what was happening there.
Very interesting.
Yeah, that man sounds crazy.
Yeah.
So we are actually doing a 2-parter again tonight because we're trying to power through and get some in the bank.
Yeah.
What is your next topic going to be?
Before I tell you, just real quick, still on the Alice in Wonderland. So Alex has been trying to get me to get a sleeve or like start my tattoo sleeve. He's like, I'll pay for it. But like, I was nervous. I went in there with him last week because he just started his second sleeve.
Oh my God.
And there's a fucking titty on him and I'm really pissed.
Evan's got one too, right in the back.
Well, I know. Well, he's like, I specifically won't get boobs on me. On this arm now, it's a goat head. And then a woman is wearing the goat head and she's holding like a satanic Bible and she's got like a pentagram.
It's Baphomet. Yeah, that's what Evan has.
Yeah, very similar to what Evan has. Okay. That's what's on his chest is like a devil head. Yeah, he's very demonic, except for his right arm is all Asia stuff. So he got that, and she's at like a weird angle. So her arm's like holding the Bible or whatever. And he's like, oh, I just want some cleavage in here. And I go, I don't want titties. And he goes, no titties. And he comes home. I go, what is that? And he goes, I didn't know he was going to do that. Him and his tattoo artist have his tattoo artist has free reign to do basically anything. I saw the design and it was not on the design. Because I came to look at it and I'm like, well, I don't see any boob. He goes, I know, we're going to like throw in a cleavage. But I think he moved her arm completely. So now her whole tit's out. And I'm like, I hate you so much. He goes, well, I can't do anything about it now. But anyway, I was in there and I'm like, I think I'm okay with getting mine if you still want to pay for it. So I may, if I think I can get it done by the wedding. I want to see his arm shaded in because I don't know if I like this guy for what I want.
Oh, okay.
But if I do, I think I'm going to get it and try to get the whole thing done by the wedding.
Are you going for black and white, color, a mix?
Black and white without. So it's going to be Alice in Wonderland, but a zombie version. So like a zombie party and they're dead and all this stuff. So I want each character to be outlined in their color. So Alice will be blue. The Red Queen would be red. The Mad Hatter purple, etc. So that's the only color I want. But otherwise, I want it black and white.
That'll be actually really cool.
I think so.
Yeah, like, I need to finish my arm, but from what I did, that was, I think, I sat for maybe 8 hours, but I split it up between 2 sessions.
Yeah, and that's my biggest thing is I'm just afraid to sit because my longest tattoo is my back, and like it was on my spine and it didn't hurt, but I just know there's so many random little spots in your arm that hurt pretty badly.
Yeah.
And I've never sat for long. I think my back was maybe an hour, if that. So I'm like, I'm really nervous just to sit. And he goes, obviously you can break it up into as many sessions as you want. And he goes, but the longer you can sit through, the quicker it will be done. So that's what makes me really nervous.
It's not as bad as you think it will be. You're a woman, first off. You have a much higher pain tolerance. And you get to a point where it just kind of feels numb. And so headphones on, stare at your phone, read a book, watch a movie. And then you'll get to a point where you're like, fuck this. And then you'll be done.
Yeah.
You're a woman and you're not going to say anything. So you'll just grin and bear it.
I don't think they want to. I know.
Right?
I think I might do that before the wedding.
Okay. You have plenty of time.
I know.
That's exciting. I look forward to seeing that develop. Okay. So back to what your topic is going to be.
So my topic is going to be, I don't know if you've ever heard of it. This wasn't when I told you yesterday or 2 days ago that I was going to do my notes. I'm like, I don't really know what I'm going to do.
That was this morning, by the way.
And then
That was this morning, by the way.
So I sat down and I went, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to do something else. And it pops in my head. It's the back rooms or the back rooms theory.
I've heard stuff about that. I've seen it pop up online. It's so weird. Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I'm going to cover.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to that. But in the meantime, if anyone has any other suggestions, because sometimes I feel like I am just grasping for ideas, we encourage and welcome you to send us a note. You can reach us on our Instagram. You can send us a good old-fashioned email at crackedsistersconspiracies@gmail.com. We have an X and a Facebook, but we don't really check those. We have a TikTok that we throw some stuff up there every now and again. And then we have a Patreon, which we encourage you to subscribe to. You get access to exclusive content, the full videos of all of our recordings, some merch as it's available, and other goodies. So give us $1, make us holler. But with that, I'm going to say stay crusty. I'm not going to say anything.
Have a good day.